Who gets my CPF if I pass away? This is one of those questions that probably doesn't get asked enough, and it's certainly not the happiest of topics, but it's an incredibly important one to think about. See, CPF in Singapore, which is Singapore's version of superannuation, is not an estate asset, very similar to our superannuation back home. What that means is we need to have a separate nomination in place. So in this video, we're going to dive into how we set up this nomination, why we need to set up this nomination, and exactly what is covered when we have this nomination in place. So let's dive right in. Hi there, I'm Jarrad Brown, Australian expat financial planner here in Singapore. Thank you for tuning into the video today. Today we're tackling the not so happy topic of who gets my CPF if I pass away. Now, as I mentioned in the introduction, CPF is not an estate asset, meaning we need to have a separate nomination in place. Now, what is covered by this nomination? So it is all of our CPF accounts. It's our ordinary account, special account, medical account, and our retirement account. So the four key accounts within our CPF. We also have unused CPF life premiums, which are covered, but what is not covered are things like property that we buy with the CPF. And that's probably a really important one because a lot of people here will use their CPF to buy property, and property, when it comes to us passing away, is going to be distributed based on the ownership of that property. So we need to have this nomination in place. Now, what happens if we don't? You might think, well, I've already got a will. Why do I need this nomination for my CPF as well? Won't they just rely on my will? Or won't it all just go to my husband or wife? And sadly, that is not the case. It may get there eventually, but it may take an incredibly long amount of time. So if we don't have a nomination in place, what happens is that money goes to the Singapore Public Trustee and is distributed based on the intestacy laws in Singapore. So it's a little bit like dying intestate without a will. That is where those intestacy laws come into play. So very important to have this nomination in place. You can ensure that it's paid in cash to your husband, to your wife, to whoever you would like it to be paid for, providing they're eligible to receive those funds. Now, how do we actually go about setting up this nomination? Well, as is the case with many things in this country, it's incredibly easy and it's done online. We need our SingPass, we need our ID, and we need 2 eligible witnesses. It's all done online, it's quick, it's also free if you needed added motivation to get this done. With the witnesses, the very important thing to be mindful of is they cannot be beneficiaries. So if you are nominating your husband, your wife, your spouse, they shouldn't also be a witness to that document. So separate witnesses in place. Usually they need to be above the age of 18 and they can then sign off as witnesses for that nomination. A couple of other things to be very mindful of. If you are married, very similar to a will, that will often revoke a nomination. So if you're married and you don't want it to go to a previous nomination, or you didn't make a nomination, or you did prior to marriage, make sure you go in and update that, make sure the nomination is still in place. And perhaps more importantly is if you are divorced. So if you separate, that nomination is actually not automatically void. So if you don't want your CPF going to your ex-spouse, then again, make sure you get in there and update that one. If you're an Australian expat thinking about how CPF forms part of your estate, consider it as part of your overall estate plan. Yes, we still need that nomination in place, but we can think about then how it forms part of your estate, part of your distribution plan, and part of your generational plan if you are looking to set up your children, your grandchildren, or other family members. I hope that makes sense. As I said, not the most exciting of topics, but an incredibly important one to be aware of. Drop me a note with any questions. Thank you for tuning in and see you in the next one.